Offside, ref!
Welcome back to In From A Side, another episode, our second episode of this week. Welcome back, Matthew Rhodes, my co-host, my partner in crime.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you again. I saw you 5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago, we're doing this, we're getting the train, we're on the tracks.
We're on the tracks, we're doing another one. Look at Six Nations. The Six Nations has just kicked off. With 2 weeks of great rugby already, so we wanted to dig into
some great rugby.
Some great rugby, some less great rugby, some upsets already in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're going to touch on all the teams, give you our thoughts on what we've seen. We've watched some of the games. I haven't watched all of the games, admittedly.
We've watched the highlights.
Yeah. We do watch the highlights if we can't get to a game. First 2 weeks, Matt. What do you make of it,
mate?
Ireland is the only unbeaten side currently.
So far,
2 weeks in.
I don't think they're playing outstanding rugby. It's not like they are smashing, teams in their way. But again, they're playing better. I think second half in comparison to first half in both the games that they played. The Kiwi boys and the Irish team are standing up. Like Bundy Aki, Jamison Gibson Park,
James Lowe. But like James Lowe, he is solid every game. He's great on the high ball. His attacking prowess is fantastic. His offload in the tackle, he's always putting people through, and he's either setting up tries or scoring tries himself. Yeah.
So it was hard for me. I was, watching the game to pick between either him or Jamison Gibson Park. I called the halfback to be the man of the match, and rightly so. Was that the first game or second game?
It was the first game against England.
But it could have gone James Lowe's way, right?
Yeah, it could. But that sort of opens up a debatable topic, is how good is Ireland, and for that fact, same goes for Scotland, without their international imports.
Correct.
So how good is Ireland without those three guys? They three key players will make a big difference in that back line. And Gibson Park currently just runs the show from 9. He takes a lot of pressure off these young fly-offs.
But I want to illuminate something between what's happening between Ireland and the scrum half and how influential that can be. Because we talk about it on other shows and why Wales are so poor at the moment. If you watch the Wales versus France game, right? I was crying into my drink because it was so simple what they were doing. I think Tomas Williams was 9 for the first 60 odd minutes before the other Williams came on to replace him at 9. If you watch the game, Wales against France would just be on the gain line, right? And Wales were lining up deep, 10 yards. And the halfback Tomas would pick up the ball, run a couple, and I've said to you, I hate it when that happens because you diminish the amount of time that you're giving your fly. If the fly-off's not coming onto the ball, so all you're doing is you're inviting the defense onto you. And so there were times where I'd slow down. I feel sorry for my wife because she had to endure me doing this and showing this, but Wales would be in the ascendancy. They would gain 10 or 20 yards. They'd get tackled. There'd be a breakdown. They would then set up deep with France just holding the line, pass the ball back from the half. No one's running onto it. And by the time the ball, because of the delay in pass, got to the fly for the first receiver, France had gained or taken back the advantage that Wales had just secured. And then they were getting tackled back behind the gain line. So they were going 20 meters forward to go 40 meters back every single time. There's no way that you can win that. Whereas if you look at Ireland in comparison, Jamison Gibson Park is darting around. It's quick off the deck. The boys are running onto the ball. They're taking options to exploit gaps. There's runners off, both shoulders. And whenever they were in the ascendancy and taking the ball beyond the gain line, they weren't getting tackled back.
Yeah.
So, and again, to me, it just seemed so clear from a strategy perspective. Why isn't someone in Gatland's box going, why are we doing this? Like every single time we're getting tackled behind the gain line over and over and over. Every time we get a bit of go forward, we give it away straight away. Like, how do we change this? And actually, when they changed their 9, you can see there was a subtle change. His delivery off the deck was so much quicker, and they started to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for Wales. I mean, what is it now? 14 on the trot that they've lost. They down to 12th in the world, 13th in the world.
Yeah.
Georgia is now ranked higher than Wales. I mean, it's unacceptable to be very frank.
Mate,
and you can hear all the ex-players, Sam Warburton, Jamie Roberts, when we hear them on the TV, they all say the same thing. It's like something's got to change.
Yeah.
And I know it's tough because you only have the players available to you, and they've lost a lot of experience. Like Alan Wynne-Jones is gone, Dan Bigger is gone. They've lost a lot of great players, but surely they can eke out a win somewhere against someone with talent that they've got, and they're just not clicking. Does Gatland survive the Six Nations? That's the big question.
I don't think so. For me, and the reason why, I'm not saying that he's not a good coach. He's had excellent, historically, he's had excellent wins and had some of the greatest times for Wales and with Wales that Wales have ever had. I think the issue is, if I, who is not a coach and I'm not an ex-professional, am sitting at home and seeing something that is blatantly obvious that you're not addressing from a strategy or coaching perspective on the field, and the other team are just literally camping on the gain line, walking forward, and whenever you make a mistake, they just take advantage or dominate. That's simple rugby coaching. And if you can't turn that around, then what can you turn around? So
yeah.
I thought that his head was for the chop before the start of the tournament, and after seeing very underwhelming performances,
I mean, they haven't improved, and to be very blunt, I think they've gone backwards.
Yeah.
If you look at last year's Six Nations, when they started this awful run of losing games, they lost to England by a point. There were some close games. There were 2 or 3 games that they lost by 2 or 3 points, but now they're just getting smashed. They're just getting smashed, and I think the scoreline against Italy flattered them. Italy missed some crucial kicks on the weekend.
Yeah.
It could have been a way more comfortable win for the Italians.
And Italy let them back in at the end. To a man, I don't see anyone other than maybe Morgan.
Jack Morgan's the only one that's...
He's standing up and trying to pull 14 other blokes around him. And some of their decision making, I mean, they're costing themselves, maybe because they're trying too hard. They've got some good talent, but it just seems wayward, and it seems like they need wholesale changes. So I don't think if you're the board and Gatland's standing in front of you and you're asking him, justify your position, why should we keep you? What has he got to say?
And also getting the salary that he's getting, like they're paying him a premium, and if you can't get the results, sorry mate, then someone else can get the same results for half the price.
It's a great,
at a minimum.
That's a great segue. Who do they bring in?
I don't know, because I think that's a poison chalice currently. Like, who would want to coach them? And you've got to look internally. You've got to get a Welshman in to coach them. They haven't had a Welsh head coach in quite some time. I think Mike Ruddock might have been the last one. And that was in the mid-2000s, mate. Like, Warren Gatland and Wayne Pevak has been running that team ever since. So...
What about Crowley? Because he's part of the setup, isn't he?
Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe he is.
Isn't Rob Crowley...
Rob Howley.
Rob Howley,
yeah,
sorry.
Rob Howley is assistant coach. So he's in with a shout.
Because he's Welsh, he played for the team, he's got all that...
I don't know if they'll back someone from within the system. It almost feels like they need fresh blood and fresh ideas. But
from where?
Who that is, I have no idea. I know Ronan O'Gara said he probably won't look at the Wales job. He'd be interested in England or Australia.
Of course.
But he won't touch Wales. I don't know who they bring in, to be honest. I don't even know who's on the list. Do they go, to another country again? Do they pick another New Zealand coach? Do they look at someone like Franco Smith at Glasgow, who was successful at Glasgow? I don't know.
Your mate, Checker, is currently 2-1 at the bookies to replace Borthwick.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
I'd be very surprised if he gets that.
I mean, he's got pedigree.
I'd be very surprised.
He's got pedigree. He's been an international coach. He's doing well with Tigers. He's done well with Australian provincial teams too. He's your mate.
He's not my mate. I just dig the guy.
Yeah, I know. But so maybe if not England, I mean, it'd be interesting if O'Gara goes to England, he goes to Wales.
I think I think Cheika would want to coach internationally again. Like I know he's moving away from the Tigers to be with his family, right, in Australia. They moved, when he stopped coaching Argentina, they went back to Australia. He came to England. So he misses his family, and that's why he's going back. I totally get that. But for him to make it worth being away from his family, I think he needs to coach an international side. Would he want that gig? It's debatable. I don't know.
Okay, so let's get back to the issue at hand. It seems to be Wales, and I know that we were talking about Ireland and we've just kind of traversed into Wales, but Wales seem to have such a good grassroots program for so many years. Like from the time the Quinnell brothers were playing all the way through, there just seemed to be a conveyor belt of fantastic, and even before them rather, really fantastic rugby players coming through. And it doesn't seem like they've got that grassroots infrastructure.
They're not producing the Jamie Roberts, the George Norths, the Liam Williams,
the Shane Williams,
the Dan Biggers. They're not producing that quality player anymore. And
why?
I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it, because they've got the same 4 provincial sides. They've got more players playing club rugby than a team like Scotland, who's only got 2 professional teams. So they've got the same number of players than Ireland. Ireland's getting it right. Okay, they've got a different setup, and the majority of the team plays for Leinster, and they've got a central contracting system. But I think there's something in the administration of the game in Wales. And I don't know too much of the details, but they have to look at... I know one of the things that Gatland got criticised on is he didn't even go to club games. Like, everyone was like, Wales isn't playing. Why is he not at the club games and looking at local talent? So they need to figure out the pipeline of developing young talent and bringing them through. There's some flashes of brilliance there. Rio Dyer looks promising. Jack Morgan, we spoke about, he looks good. James Botham, looks very promising, but it's just too few and far between.
James Botham played really, really well in the autumn internationals.
He did. He played well against us.
Yeah.
He was one of the standout players. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel for them. Look, you'll see all the Wales videos and DVDs here. Like, they've got such a strong history, and they've produced world-class players. I don't want to see them ranked that low. So something needs to change. I think Gatland's got to go. He can go and coach the Chiefs in Super Rugby and retire in New Zealand. But they need to bring in someone with fresh ideas and new energy and just, start from scratch. It can't go any worse. Unless you get ranked below Namibia or something. I don't know. How bad does it need to get?
Okay. So let's move away from bashing on Wales. Not that we are. We
feel for them.
We feel for them. We call it as we see it. Both of us have always, I think I speak for both of us, where we've appreciated the Welsh heritage and how good they are at rugby and producing great teams.
You know why I love Wales? Is whenever we play against England, they'll like go and beat the English. They'll always support
the Bokke.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see them turn it around. It's hard because that ship's rudder is broken.
Yeah, very much so.
And they need to get someone in. And unfortunately, Gatland just looks bereft of ideas.
Yeah, I think he's thrown everything in the kitchen sink at it, and it's you know what, the Bulls went on a losing streak where they lost 4 games in a row now over Christmas, and Jake White said, "There's something me and the coaching team that we're doing that's not translating to the team. Like they're not understanding what we want from them, and they're not delivering. So the fault must be with us." And I almost feel like Gatland needs to make that statement to say, "There's got to be something that we are trying to get into this team." And trying to get them to do that, it's not clicking. So you can't always blame the players. Sometimes you have to blame the coach. But, I mean, they're inexperienced. I think they've got collectively 200 odd caps in that team. So it's tough. Why are you smirking?
Because we talk about a coach having the highest level of credibility, having won the World Cup. You just mentioned Jake White. Could someone like Jake, who's won a World Cup, go to somewhere like Wales?
Jake will do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Jake, if you're watching, prove me wrong, but if he gets a crack at an international side,
again,
I think he'd be keen.
And I'd love to see him back on the international stage, Jake. Like, he won the World Cup for us, or he helped us to win the World Cup. And then I think, South African rugby treated him quite badly immediately after. The word on the street, as I understand it, was he was told he needed to
reapply for his own job, and he
after
said, he won the World Cup.
He was like, "Guys, I've just won you the World Cup," and their systems of application. And so he said, "If you want me to hold on," and again I'm paraphrasing, and this is what I've heard.
your man might tell us otherwise. But he said, I want the job, I want to keep the job, but I'm not going to be applying for my own job.
He's also admitted that he was a bit harakat, hard-headed, and if he could redo it now, he would have applied, and he would have probably kept his job. But, who knows?
It's hard.
It's history.
With hindsight behind you, maybe you look back and go, I could have done some things differently. But I think he was justified in his stance to say, I deserve not to have to apply for the job that I've got where I've won you the World Cup. Okay. So anyway, on that point, if you're watching Jake, maybe there's a job in Wales.
Yeah, maybe there's a job in Wales. Let's see.
Anyway.
Okay, so let's hope Wales can get a win. I can't see it. I think they're going to go 0 from 5 because Italy was the one where they had a shot of winning. They're not going to win any of the other games.
No.
So, tough one.
That being said, you would have called France this weekend to smash England.
Let's talk about the French.
Yeah.
I mean, I backed them to win the Grand Slam this year. I thought, they beat the All Blacks last year. They looked really good in the autumn. They had a lot of momentum. I thought the pendulum was swinging away from Ireland and going with France, and they stumbled against England. How the hell did they lose that game?
France doing France things.
It is, and I hate saying that because under Galtier as coach, they moved away from that unpredictable French. It's like France is going to be consistently good, but just on the day, and this about me, I'm sick of hearing how good Dupont is, and he showed on the weekend he's human. He's very human. He did not have a good game.
That first game though. Yeah, the first weekend.
It's good against Wales, but it's Wales.
He was doing some crazy things. That game, I looked at that and I was like, maybe all the hype around him being best in the world has some substance.
Against the 13th ranked team in the world.
Correct. And then all of a sudden they stumble against England. Now England is not a bad team, but they should have beaten England.
And admittedly, if you look at England's results, they lost 7 on the trot. But they should have beaten New Zealand in the first test. Yeah. They should have beaten New Zealand at Twickenham if they could set up the drop goal and just close out that game. They were competitive against us. I never thought they would win that game. They should have beaten Australia.
Yeah.
They did beat Ireland last year. They could have beaten Ireland in round 1 if it wasn't for 2 soft tackles by Marcus Smith and Alex Mitchell, one-on-one tackles that swung the game, turned into tries for Ireland, and that just swung the game. So they were really competitive against Ireland. So you're right. They're not a bad team. They could just never close out games. Like tight games, you need to grind out that win. And this might be the game that just flicks a switch on the England side and gives them that belief to say, we can beat the best.
England have a tendency to spoil the party. Last year they did it for Ireland.
For Ireland, yeah.
Marcus Smith with his drop goal.
Yeah.
This year they've done it for France. And am I right in saying Ireland last year was at Twickenham as well?
Yeah, it was at Twickenham. So they're tough to beat there.
Always at Twickenham. It's their home ground. They get up for it. It's never an easy game. But 7-7 at halftime, I was thinking to myself, this is a bit of a drab game. A bit of a war of attrition. Not many outstanding players putting their hands up. And then second half, like you say, England were able to just grind it out to the end, where they just managed a moment of brilliance. It was the moment of the game. There was no other real moment that stands out for me where you think, this turned the tide. England just kept in it, like a boxer, just going round for round, staying in it, jabbing, and then right at the end, a knockout punch.
But that's the edge that they needed. That's what they missed against the All Blacks. That's what they missed against the Wallabies. Like when you thought they won that game, they let it slip.
Yeah.
And this time it was the other way around. Like you thought they let the game slip, and they fought back and they scored 4 great tries. And to be honest, they deserved their win.
I thought so.
I don't think France were good on the day. They made a lot of errors. Like Dupont was his uncharacteristic self. He didn't play well. He missed an easy catch to go and score in the first half. He made some basic errors. And I think there's one issue that I see with this French side going into the next World Cup. They're very strong, and they're going to be one of the favourites, but they rely too much on him. Like he is their key player. He is their Dan Carter, like from back in the day. But whereas with New Zealand could still win without Carter or without McCaw, the moment Dupont has got an average game, it transcends to the whole team. And suddenly the whole team has got an average game. They rely too much on him to make things happen. And you could see when the pressure was up, he tried to, be the playmaker, and he tried too much. And that's when you start making mistakes. So they need to figure that out. They need to rely more on other players like a Ramos or a Ntamak.
On the wing, what a weekend for your man. Is it Pernod?
Yeah, Pernod was awesome. I mean, he's fantastic. He's already the top French try scorer of all time. Yeah. He broke Serge Blanco's record. He scored 6 against the Sharks the other day. Sorry to bring that up, Matt, but
thanks, bud.
He was out injured. First game back, scored a try. He's everywhere. He's
strong in the tackle, like runs good lines, looks for opportunities and gaps. He's just so hard to take down. He's a man with vision. So good that he's back in the team. But you're right, they rely too heavily on Dupont. The other thing that I noticed, and again, they didn't exploit it, Wales didn't exploit it, but some teams just allow France to just stand and wait for them. And then they don't expel much energy. And they got some pretty big buggers in that squad. In the World Cup, Rassi and Jacques identified that, which is where obviously the scrum at the 22 was exploited, because it was like they just watch, and chasing the sun, they said. They just watched the ball getting kicked.
Give them time to rest.
Give them time to rest. Wales didn't exploit that. They just kind of stood on the gain line, and when Wales picked up the ball, passed it back 10, 15 yards, they would just advance on it. They weren't running about the place. They weren't expelling much energy. This last weekend against England ran them a bit, and they had to defend. And towards the end, the last 10 minutes, it looked like France were out on the legs a bit. And that final try, running good lines, boys look tired. So I don't know if it's a fitness issue with France that they're not being able to see it out against top teams that are using their physicality for the full 80.
Yeah.
That might be an issue. Might be something to look at.
So we spoke about Gatland and him being in trouble. Does Borthwick survive this Six Nations now that they've beaten France? Has he done enough to keep his job?
I don't think so. I think I called Steve Borthwick's head for the chop before the tournament began. Or at least I said that if Steve Borthwick didn't win it, or at least get to the kind of final of the tournament, I think he'd be for the chop. One win against France, against an underwhelming France team
at home
doesn't prove your mettle. A 47% win rate over 28, 29, 30 odd games isn't great by any standards.
No, it's not. Not for them.
Not for them. And with a couple of years out from a World Cup, if you want to get someone in to build some kind of value system and momentum and some success that you can leverage to go into a big tournament, now's the time to do your changes.
Now's the time. Look, the Lions are touring in the middle of the year, which means England as a nation won't tour. I think it's going to come down to the Scotland test. If they lose again to Scotland, which they tend to do in the Six Nations, they've lost the last 3 on the road in a row.
Yeah.
So if they lose to Scotland, I think he's gone. If they beat Scotland, it means they've won 4 from 5. They've only lost to Ireland in Dublin. He might survive. But I think you're right. The fact that there's no mid-year tour, it gives them enough time to shop around and find someone before the November tests to fix England. I don't know. It's very 50-50. They've got high standards. They've got the biggest player base in the world. They've got a lot of money that they can throw at a coach. But if not Borthwick, then who fills that role? You know, it will be interesting. Because Andy Farrell's currently not coaching Ireland, right? He's gearing up for the Lions tour. Does England pull off the most amazing switch in coaching in history and say, go and coach the Lions, when you come back, you coach England?
Oh, how would he ever step back into Ireland? He'd be lynched. Yeah,
but
tough.
That's not impossible. He is English.
He is, and which is why I had him in my team, in my fantasy team. Look, stranger things have happened. I mean, we know of certain coaches who've been like, nah, mate, I'm here. And next
I'm
week,
in Cape Town, mate. I'm going nowhere.
No contact, mate. I'm committed to the Stormers. I woke up this morning, looked at Tabletop Mountain, so I'm here.
I'm nowhere, and next minute he's on a plane to somewhere else. So, but I think the integrity of the man,
while he's under contract, he probably
would suggest that he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I see no reasons to believe that he would do that. But as I say, stranger things have happened. I think Ronan O'Gara is a stronger shout.
Yeah, O'Gara I think's in with a shout, and he'd be interested. He's also interested in the Aussie job because Joe Schmidt said he's leaving after the Rugby Championship. He's not going to go through to the World Cup, so they're going to have to replace him. And O'Gara's, he said, I'd like to.
But why is Joe Schmidt leaving? I don't understand.
It was always a short term. They recognise, full well recognise that they need to beat the Lions. Like, that is how you re-establish Australia as a power in the world, is beat the Lions, and then we can worry about the World Cup. So it was always going to be a short term.
But it's their World Cup. It's a home World Cup, so you're giving someone who's going to be. I mean, they've just announced that the opening ceremony is going to be in Perth. All my mates in Perth are getting their spare bedrooms ready. Woohoo! Coming in hot, baby. Shout out to Banjo and Raj. But like, at the end of the day, it's your home tournament. You've got the greatest possibility with home ground advantage. You see it in every World Cup. When it's your home tournament, the crowd gets behind you, and for some reason, teams, football teams, rugby teams, you can use that fan base to get you higher than maybe you were expecting or where you should. And so Australia, after playing really well in the Autumn Nations Series, if they have a good tour against the Lions, and maybe they even win the tour against the Lions, sets them up really nicely for the home tournament. Why are they binning the coach? Or why is the coach leaving? Why isn't
he was only ever going to commit for 2 years?
Why isn't Philly Ward doing everything in his possible to retain him?
I can't answer that question, but he always said he was going to come in for 2 years, focus on the Lions. I think they recognize that they need to breathe new life into the game, get people excited about the game, get more players to play the game. You know how competitive it is with the NRL and with Aussie rules and cricket. Like, they're fourth in the queue for players.
Mate, and netball sometimes even better.
Exactly,
like higher in the fan base.
So I think they want to get people excited about the game again. And then, I mean, Rassie won the World Cup with a year and a half to prep.
Sure.
But anyway, we're digressing from the Six Nations.
Yeah.
Where were we? We were talking about England and France.
We talked about England, France. We've done Wales, Italy. Like, I'm chuffed for Italy. They are. It's taken a long time for them to be showing some good mettle. They almost threw it away at the end. They almost let Wales back in, but I always felt like they were going to win that game. Like.
Yeah, no, I thought they were. I never thought the result was in doubt. Like you say, I think they let Wales in. They should have won more comfortably. Italy is. I mean, I talk about them and Scotland sort of in the same vein. They always promise a lot. Like, this is the year you think, oh, Italy might win 3 games. Maybe they'll win 3, but they never do, and I don't think they ever will. And now there's another topic we can discuss is, should they look at something like a promotion relegation game?
I think so.
Because if you look at how well Georgia's been playing for the last couple of seasons, and I love the Georgia.
We want to see how Yashvili's in that tournament, bruv.
David Niniashvili is like the best counter-attacking fullback on the planet. Honestly, he is awesome.
He's so good.
I'd love to see them in the Six Nations. They've beaten Wales in Cardiff before. I think they'll be very competitive. So how long are they going to go ahead with Italy without ever really producing the goods? And they produce good players like Seb Negri and Capuzzo and Tommy Allen, and these guys are Menoncello. They're great players, but they just never produce the results. They can't get up for big games. Last year was probably the best that they've ever done in the Six Nations, where they beat Wales, they drew with France, which was a big result for them.
Yeah.
But they need to win 3-4 games consistently to be like without being questioned why they exist in the competition. I think there's space to have that playoff game.
I think
say if you're bottom of the log, and even if it's Wales, which it will be this year, go and play Georgia, and if you lose, you're out.
There should be a other nations tournament which allows other nations to compete together.
It's there. The European Championship's going.
Let's have a meritocracy. If you win that tournament, you get your shot. We see it a lot in the Premiership in football. A lot of the times, a team goes straight up, and the Championship is a tough tournament. Like that particular league, excuse me, that particular league is tough.
Yeah.
And some of the football that gets played in the Championship sometimes would rival, from a viewing perspective, the Premiership. And we often see it where a team will win that, get promoted, and get relegated the next year. So you can expect to see that happen with this kind of tournament, this kind of meritocracy. You might win here, but the standards here are so much higher. But at least it won't be a foregone conclusion that, like Wales, cool, we'll get all the money from the Six Nations participation. We won't have to look at ourselves and our grassroots and, all of a sudden we're playing a sub-B division. If we want to get back up there where the big money is, where the TV money is, we need to play better.
You have to go and win. Absolutely.
I think they need some incentive.
They do. I mean, it's the carrot and the stick, and I think they need the stick currently, right? And take the carrot away.
Yeah.
Okay, last team we need to talk about is Scotland. The just like the underperforming Scots every year. Why is it every year we hear about Scotland and people are going to say, oh, this year they're going to win the Six Nations? They've never won the Six Nations in 25 years of that competition existing. The last team to win the Five Nations in 1999, but they've never done it when it's become the Six Nations. But every year there's hype, and every year Gregor Townsend's going to pull these guys together, and then they just can't produce the goods. And if there was one year where they had a chance to beat Ireland, it was 2025.
Yeah.
And they were just played off the field. They were so average on the weekend. And to be fair, they didn't really impress that much against Italy in week one. I think they were average.
They did play better, in my opinion, last year.
They were better last year.
They had a better energy and enthusiasm about them. And like you said, they've been a bit underwhelming. I think there's been some good players in the team. At 13, they're going well. Blake Kinghorn's playing well. I think he's on the wing or fullback.
Yeah, Hugh Jones is a shoo-in for the Lions.
Hugh Jones is just...
He's a shoo-in for the Lions.
He's made that 13 shirt his own.
Yeah.
And he's exciting with ball in hand. He's always running hard. Maybe all the stuff he learned while he was in Cape Town. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, it just feels like there's the hype and then there's very little to back it up often. And you want them to do, I like Scotland, but...
Everyone likes Scotland.
It's just a bit underwhelming.
Yeah, no, I mean, they've got great players, like Finn Russell is a good player. Again, I think he's the starting fly-off for the Lions. We do need to talk about fly-offs for the Lions before we finish. But just cohesively as a team, individually, you can look at every single player in that 15 and say, yeah, they're good. Rory Dodge is playing great rugby. Blair Kinghorn, Pierre Schoeman's always been good. They've got a solid team, but they just cannot put it together consistently. I think if they beat England, Gregor Townsend's done enough to stay on as coach.
And I think he's a great coach.
They're always going to be happy with 2 or 3 wins in the Six Nations, and that's it. They're never going to produce. Last year they beat England at Twickenham and then lost to Italy.
I know.
That's so typically Scotland, and I'm not bashing them. I'm frustrated because I know that they've got more potential, but it's another disappointing season.
Yeah, and I love to see Scotland do well. I get up for it. I love to see all these teams do well, and that's why it pains me that Wales is doing so badly. But with Scotland in particular, can Gregor Townsend stand up in front of his board? And if he doesn't win the game against England next, isn't it? I think that's the next game they play.
I think that might be up next. I'm not too sure.
I'm not too sure, but after the underwhelming performances for the last 2 weeks, he needs something out of the hat in order for him to be able to turn around and go, we did it. Because again, it looks like one of those years where it's going to be, okay, so we didn't do it again.
Yeah, just same old, same old.
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions for you before we finish up.
Yep.
First question, is Ireland going to do the Grand Slam? You'd surely back them now because they're playing France in Dublin.
Yeah. My only concern is beware the wounded buffalo. And France are now a wounded buffalo, right? So they probably had grandiose ideas of the Grand Slam themselves. You picked them for that.
I thought they were going to do it.
And now they've just been beaten by England at Twickers. They wouldn't be happy. And so they're going to probably want to come and take all that frustration out on Ireland. Ireland, as we well know, have a tendency to choke. So this could be a crunch game for them.
It could end up with 4 teams winning four games. somehow. It's going to be interesting, if that ends up happening. But
yeah, so I think it's on for Ireland, but I think they shouldn't underestimate France.
So no team has ever won the Six Nations 3 years in a row. So that'll be the carrot for Ireland to go and do that, do the triple. It's going to be interesting. My other question to you was...
They don't have Andy Farrell at the helm.
They don't, but they've done well with Easterby. Like, he's filled that gap, and I'm sure Farrell's still whispering in his ear and staying close to the team. But they haven't missed a beat
until he leaves to go to England.
Only time will tell, mate. And it brings back Owen Farrell, coaches his son. Who knows? Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Mm-hmm. My other question was fly off.
Yeah.
There's massive hype in England around Marcus Smith,
who played 15 this weekend.
Do you buy into the hype of Marcus Smith?
I think Marcus Smith is an outstanding player. And I think this is one of the failures, in my opinion, of Steve Borthwick not to utilize Marcus Smith to the greatest effect. We saw who were they playing? Marcus Smith was bossing the game. We took him off for George Ford.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
They could have had a historic win against the ABs. He takes him off. They end up losing the game. And it's like, okay, well, strategically, that was a cuck move. Marcus Smith then, probably the best fly-off other than Owen Farrell in the country at the moment, or at least England. I don't think Owen Farrell's put his hand up for.
Well, there's rumours that there's rumours that he's coming back. He's not eligible because he's playing in France, but he's apparently coming back. And rumour is he's
left the Tigers,
going to the Tigers. Yeah, so we'll see.
Andre Pollard is apparently
he's on his way to Japan. That's a done deal.
That's money. But some people are saying that they're going to throw some money to try and get him into South Africa. Like, your man he's the best flyer in the world. So fair play, all the accolades and all the money that's been thrown at him to attract him to go wherever. But Owen Farrell at 10 is an outstanding option, and he would be my pick over Marcus Smith at 10. But given the current selections, I think Marcus Smith needs to be at 10 in order for the kind of flair and pizzazz and show-stopping type of rugby that you want to see, because the other fly-halves that are coming, they're underwhelming.
This is, again, it's going to be a controversial statement, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to give me flack, because he is a very talented player. But I think Marcus Smith is very much like Danny Cipriani was. Like, all the talent in the world, very flashy, can create, something out of nothing, can break the line, can put players away. But that Test rugby doesn't work that way. You need someone that plays the percentages and can play pragmatic rugby. That's what makes Andre Pollard the best in the world. It's because he's not flashy. He does the basics really well. He kicks into the corner. He makes his kicks. He's as consistent as gravity. Marcus Smith, for me, is very much like Imani Lebok. Like, great club player, can play at that level. But at Test level, when the pressure is up, I just don't see him shine. He missed a couple of easy kicks on the weekend. Okay, they won the game, sure. But he missed some really easy kicks.
They were right in front.
Yeah. I just don't think maybe it's a confidence thing, and maybe it's because the coach hasn't backed him consistently.
The same kind of argument. Carlos Spencer, Andrew Mertens.
Same thing.
Carlos Spencer was razzle-dazzle pizzazz.
At the Blues, he blew you off the park.
Unbelievable. And when I watch Marcus Smith sometimes, it reminds me a bit of Carlos Spencer when he played.
Absolutely.
He's got all the talent in the world, the goose step. He's also good in defence. Like, he's solid. I think he plays with a lot of heart and passion. But push comes to shove. When you've got your Marnie, you throw on Andre to see it out. I just don't see... So George Ford is England's version of a solid, dependable closer. He just didn't close that game.
No, but I think George Ford, the writing's on the wall for his career. I don't think he'll make it back into the squad. Finn Smith had a decent game. He wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it was all right.
I think...
He was all right, but again, it's like... That, on the field right now, it's a bit like when Damian McKenzie's playing 10, and you're like, he's the best fullback. Stick him in his position. And put Bowden Barrett at 10. Why have you switched them up? And again, whatever their strategy is their own. Whatever Borthwick's strategy was to have, Marcus Smith playing 15, fine. But the England side on the weekend looked like they were at their best when he was coming in and joining the line at first receiver. So it's like, well, why don't you just stick him there in the first place and sort out 15 some other way? I don't know.
Fair point.
I think
it's a Ruan Pienaar conundrum. Like, we never knew what to do with him. He played 9, he played 10, he played 15.
Yeah, 15 as well.
But I don't know. I've just got a question mark around Marcus Smith's BMT. Like, if the pressure is up, if you had to back someone to kick a penalty from the halfway line, like Pollard did, to get you into a final or to win the World Cup final, would you back Marcus Smith?
He did kick their drop goal against Ireland last year.
Dude, it was within the 22. Finn Baxter could have kicked that.
I get your argument.
That was the easiest drop goal ever.
Of all time. But he still kicked it.
Fair point. He got lucky once. I'm not bashing Marcus Smith. He's a talented player.
He's a great player. But
something's not working there.
There is a lot of hype. Again, I think Borthwick is not exploiting his talents in the best way possible.
Yeah.
It seems like Borthwick is trying different combinations, different things, throwing, and it's almost like he's clutching at straws. Like, he's trying to find that secret sauce. And it's like, sometimes, mate, it's right in front of your face.
Yeah.
Stop putting Marcus at 15, put him at 10. He can then bring in...
Keep him on for 80 and do that for 5 games in a row and then see how it goes. And if it still doesn't work, then fine, you've tried.
Or if you're going to do that and you want him to be playing at 15, great. Then find a way to get Owen Farrell back. Simple.
Yeah, he's coming back. We'll see Owen in the England side this year.
Hopefully. It's been a shame the way that he's decided to take a step away for his own personal reasons. The fact that things led to him making that decision for him and his family.
Yeah.
You never want to see that in professional sports. These are just guys trying to apply their trade, earn their money.
And he's at the back end of his career. I mean, he'll do well if he makes the next World Cup. So we'll see what happens. Other exciting news for England. Henry Arundel signed for Bath. He's coming back. He's one of the most exciting talents I've ever seen. Like, I'm a Donny Gerber fan. He reminds me of him. Like, big legs, tree trunk legs. He's going to be back in the England side soon. So, they've got some players coming back. If he comes back, Farrell's back. It might be a different team at the end of the year, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was looking at his stats, Arundel. He's only got, a small amount of caps.
Yeah, but he went to play in France.
I know. And it's like...
he did that for the money.
So again, if that's your strategy, and I think it's one of the most revolutionary things that Russie did when he went back to the Springboks to say, I want to be able to pick whoever's playing wherever. I want the best players for our Springbok team. And so it didn't matter that you weren't playing in South Africa. He could pull from France, Japan, etc.
Yeah, I thought we were going to go an episode without talking about the Springboks. We didn't do it. But that is our take on the Six Nations. We're only 2 weeks in. The drama's not over. There's still a lot that needs to happen. Let's see if Ireland can do the Grand Slam. I hope they don't. I'd like it if France can beat them in Dublin, purely because that'll open up and it just so many more permutations, and maybe France can still push to win the tournament. But we'll see what happens. We'll keep our eye on it. I
shared a couple of our videos with some of my Kiwi mates, and apparently I've said some comments that some of my Irish fellows might not appreciate about quarterfinal specialists and that kind of jazz. I'd actually like to see Ireland win the Six Nations. So,
mate, you're just talking the truth. I've also got a very good Ireland mate, Tim Kirkpatrick. He actually lives in Georgia, but big Ireland guy. So, Tim, if you ever watch this, I love you and I love the Irish. But we're only talking facts, mate.
The Irish have been my second favorite team of all time. I fell in love with watching them. My favorite player was a guy by the name of Simon Gagan.
Oh, dude, Ulster man.
Yeah.
Oh, the fact that you know who Simon Gagan is, it just puts you up another notch, Matt. In my books. He was awesome.
Show a clip of him. Blonde hair. A bit like Goldie.
He was awesome.
He looked like Goldie.
We did a tribute to Simon Gagan. Go and check it out on the Real Rugby channel.
Put a link in there.
We got a lot of his great tries. He was awesome.
I'd love to see Ireland do well. I'm just worried for them that they are going to get a wounded blue buffalo come to see them to town.
Yeah, we'll see. I think they'll be strong enough to front up.
Nice.
But we'll keep an eye on it. That's the Six Nations. We'll do this again next week. Thank you, Matt.
Cheers.
Thanks to everyone at home. Cheers to you for watching and sticking it through all the way. Please give us a like and a subscribe. Go and click the little notification button at the bottom of this video to get notifications of any new videos that we put onto the channel. Go and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We post videos throughout the week.
Like and share.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave your comments in the section below and tell us what you think about the Six Nations so far. We'll see you again next week.
Cheers.